Now, another thing that you've shown on your YouTube channel, which I think would be very valuable for the audience to know, is how to make your own fish fertilizer. Can you kind of break that down for us? And why do you prefer to kind of make it your own instead of buying it?
Now that is one that I still do use, absolutely, because the stuff you make and the way I'm going to tell you here in a second is the finest fish fertilizer that you can get for sure. And when I say that, I don't just mean it's my thought or it's my feeling. I mean thousands of plants over a decade and more of growing. I mean a decade of those plants and then another decade of vegetable gardening and stuff. So I know that the effects work. Now, the reason that it's better homemade is because when I was in Humboldt, this was, like I said, many years ago now, but there was, you could go into these grow shops there and there would be thousands of different supplements. I mean, just like broom, broom, all the way on both sides, stacked up to the ceiling, all these different bottles of stuff. And every one of them was the latest, greatest thing that was going to blow up your yields and make all your plant things pop. But I found over the years, I found that like 90% of that stuff is marketing hype. 90% of it is marketing hype. And that you can't actually do better than the basics. And so even when I was chemical farming, because we had several different, we had the organic stuff and then we had the chemical stuff. The chemical stuff is what, sold the most, of course. And the chemical stuff over the years, I found that just the basic grow more, 20, 20, 20 and its variants, with CalMag was everything to produce just crazy good harvests and yields. And so all that other stuff, we spent tens of thousands of dollars on all these other supplements, thinking it was going to make our stuff pop while not understanding the fundamentals of what the plants need. So even with all these different products and everything, we had an incomplete nutrition system for the plants, which was blew my mind when I was shown that, when I realized that. So, then realizing that the fundamentals are so much cheaper. And so it's just a very different way of doing things. And so I realized that the supplement industry is so full of a lot of hype. Not all of it. I said there's 10% of it that is really you need, and it's the good quality stuff. But with the fish fertilizer, when I realized how the stuff was made industrially, I mean, it's just the absolute bottom of the barrel sludge. After all the stuff that has been removed for fish oil supplements, all the other stuff's been removed for cosmetics and all this, and then it's been heated and digested with this chemical enzyme and up and down pH, stabilizing this and that. So when I was shown how to make it with simply fish and brown sugar, that's it. I said, what? And so it takes a while. It takes quite a while, better part of a year to make, but you mix equal parts by weight of brown sugar and fish, whole fish, fish skins, whatever you want. Whole fish is the best. In Northern California, we use salmon, of course, after the salmon runs. But here in Indiana, where I'm at now, we have to use like bluegill and carp and catfish from the rivers. But it doesn't matter that much what type of fish you use. But equal parts by weight, layer them in a 5-gallon bucket, put that lid on there and let it sit for a year. You don't have to touch it. Every 3 months or every month if you want, but you could poke it with a stick and get it in there. But you will see that sugar, through the osmotic pressure that is created by the sugar, this is why we never use molasses for this. It has to be sugar. The osmotic pressure is going to, it's different than a fermentation. It pulls out the nutrients like on a cellular level, and it creates this rich, amazingly inviting smelling fish supplement. There's no foul smell to it. Every other way of making fish fertilizer smells like rancid, putrid death. Okay. And so this way of making it smells like delightful tomato sauce, basically. I mean, it's amazing. You'd almost use it as a fish sauce, almost, but definitely don't. So it's that stuff, man, you can spray that on the plants and they will just, after you grow so many plants, thousands, tens of thousands and stuff, especially of the medicinal plants, where you really got to make sure that they succeed to the maximum thing. In those days, we had to make sure it succeeded. And so you learn to read the plants. You learn to read, where, based upon how the plant is upright, if it's kind of droopy a little bit, if it's sad, you become, part of the plant, and you can read it and you can see, okay, I applied this and now they're just zinging. They're straight out praying towards the sky, really just full of life. And so that's the supplement that you foliar with that stuff, and they're going to be loving it.
One of my favorite inputs is fish meal, and adding that in and just seeing how the plants react is incredible. But being able to catch your own fish and then put it in with brown sugar and letting it sit for a year and then having your own fertilizer, right, not paying the money, would be much, much better. So I might actually have to try this. So let me ask you though, so equal parts of the fish and the brown sugar, I assume you can use it in like a 5-gallon bucket. You just layer it. Do you have to cover it or like seal it entirely or what?
Yes, you want to seal it. Now, this was a huge issue in Northern California because we have bears there. And so the bears would always get into the stuff. So we ended up having to dig holes and bury these things, 55-gallon drums, and then put things over the top. That was the only way to protect them at the time. But whatever thing that you use, you want to make sure that it's pretty much airtight. You don't want anything evaporating. And so a lot of people think that it's a digestion and that there's going to be gas created. And so they got to put an airlock. And I used to think that as well. But you don't. There's no gas created. I know it's crazy. It doesn't make sense, but it's not a fermentation. It's like an extraction more. So it's, you actually just get a 5-gallon bucket and get a super tight fitting lid, hammer that thing on there, and you're good to go. I mean, if you just left it for a year and a half, get them started now. And in a year, open it up and there will be virtually nothing left. There will be some bones and scales at the bottom of the thing. The rest of it will be liquid gold.
And now, do you dilute that down into something and then feed the plants, or is it just straight from there into the soil?
Yeah, definitely dilute. Always dilute this stuff. Yeah, it's very concentrated. So for watering, 1 ounce a gallon is going to be plenty. Now, the K&F traditions and stuff like that do what amount to homeopathic amounts, like 1 teaspoon, 1 to 1,000 ratios and stuff. I never found, I wanted those to all be true for a long time. I never found the K&F ratios to be substantial enough. And so I found that if you add 1 ounce a gallon, not a teaspoon, 1 ounce a gallon, you can foliar with that. You can, water the soil with that. It's just really good. Yeah. And you can even, if you're making aerated compost teas, of course, aerated compost tea is the single greatest solution you can apply liquid to your garden beyond what's in the soil, but it's a conglomerate. It's a compilation of several different things, the aerated compost tea. But you can add, after it's done brewing, you could add a cup of this, or even before or while it's brewing, add a cup of this stuff for the microorganisms. They're going to love it. Everything's going to love it.
This clip is brought to you by VivoSun. Use discount code MrGrow15 to save on any of their gardening products. Go to the full episode by clicking the outro card here, or click the link in the description section below. Catch you in the next video.